issue maybe my roof, which would be fun. Actually, 10 millimeters goes a long way. I put a spot on a building.
Oh,
God,
okay.
it's been half a mile away. I haven't seen it with my binoculars.
Have you recorded some of those?
No, we haven't taken any images yet.
Oh, yeah.
No, coherent light. It's a lot of light.
So-
We have to.
Well, as unaccustomed as I am to public speaking, thank you. Until I started this project, I had maybe made a dozen presentations, but 892 days ago, actual number. Yeah, I'm counting. Gil Clark of Telescopes in Education just dropped the word that they happen to have an 18-inch telescope available that had been donated to Telescopes in Education, and that if we found a home for it, that we would be more than welcome to have it. Well, that's all it took. I came back to Colorado and put together a team of Tom Patterson. Where are you, Tom? Okay, Tom Patterson and Chet Rideout, and eventually Carolyn Sackett with the camera, and then Maita Veldhaus right here, and Andrea Schweitzer will be she's running a little late this morning. She'll be here shortly. Who am I missing, Carolyn, in my nervousness?
You got them all?
I think I got them all. This team of all volunteers built the facility that you see here today. And if I can say the word volunteer 572 times today, it will be about an order of magnitude too little. These people have worked themselves literally into the ground to provide our students with an exceptional astronomy experience close to home, someplace that they can, in a lot of cases, walk to, in some cases, very short drive to, but certainly something that our students, when they go through that interest of astronomy, they can come here and see a big telescope run by a group of volunteers that are dedicated to making that experience for the students an enjoyable one. I have, I promised everybody I wouldn't get too emotional, but it is an emotional subject for me. I have had an opportunity to work alongside of Tom Patterson for the last almost 3 years, and there's no finer gentleman in the entire world. This is his building. He was responsible for this building. He built this thing from the ground up with the help of a lot of volunteers. He, like he does with everything he does, threw himself into this thing 100%, including 11 o'clock last night, sanding and finishing the handrail that all of you will be grabbing as you walk up and down the circular staircase. Carol Patterson, you are to be commended for your understanding and tolerance. There was one point in the project where I did send all the volunteers away and said, go take a week. And because they were working harder than any humans should ever possibly work. There are a lot of people to thank, and it's dangerous to thank all these people because you're going to leave somebody out, and I'm going to leave somebody out, and if I do, I certainly apologize, but please understand that your contribution is absolutely huge. I've mentioned Tom Patterson, Chet Rideout. Where are you? I didn't meet Chet earlier. Where's Chet? There he is. Chet has been here since day one. He's been tremendously supportive. He's going to be in charge of doing our scheduling and working with teachers and bringing lots of kids to this facility. The community as a whole has been absolutely incredible, and we'll start somewhat chronologically. Pioneer Bank, now Community First, stepped up to the table right away with an excellent donation that got us started. Berthoud National Bank, Maggie Town and Country Realty, These were the core people that actually gave us enough money that we felt comfortable we could pull this thing off, and we actually started building it before we had all the money. Speaking of money, we built the facility for less than $50,000. Then the town of Berthoud and the Board of Trustees stepped forward and offered us a significant amount of money plus a matching grant, which was almost immediately matched by the McKee Charitable Trust. If you add those contributions I just mentioned together, you will find that it's roughly 1/3 of all the contributions that we received. We have approximately 70 individual donors, from a few dollars up to several $100s. Those individuals contributed substantially to the endeavor. Jones Plumbing came in and at material cost alone put in the indirect heated floor, water heated floor that we have in the warm room, did the plumbing in the bathroom and so on. Rose Electric did the entire electric, which is substantial because there isn't any electricity out here for this type of facility, so we had to bring it in from the pump house, and there was a lot of work that had to be done there. Tom, help me.
Well, those are the two primary. I just want to thank John Henderson over here. He's a former student who's come back and put in many, many hours. But I think probably Mita and John have the most hours of volunteers. Of course, Chet. But other than that, lots and lots of good people. It's been a great experience. And we deeply appreciate all of you and your support of this. You understand that all the hours that we've put in, it's going to pale in comparison to what Chet Rideout gets to put in.
He really has to carry the ball from here on. The Melsheimer dream coming to fruition is something that kind of caught fire with a lot of people. And all this is as Tom explained, a desire to get a hook into a kid. If you can get somebody turned on to education, turned on to learning, you've got half the job licked right there. Well, we don't know what kind of kids we're going to touch. But I got to tell you a quick little story. The gentleman who did the engineering for our foundation, his last name happens to be Patterson, no relation. Kevin Patterson of Foundation Engineering. He's dead. He died in an accident down in Cancun, Mexico. Swimming from a boat into shore, got run over by another boat. This guy went back and forth with me 3-4 different times to get this foundation the way it was supposed to be, because it's inordinately tricky in terms of the soil report to support that scope with good possibility of having zero vibration. And every time I went in there, he just treated me like a king. We went in, he got his top engineers, and we hammered this thing out. And I thought, my gosh, amazing. This guy is more supportive than anybody I've encountered. And as I was going out the door, he says, you know, I know you guys want this to hook kids. When I was a kid, I was a druggie. If it hadn't been for astronomy, I'd be in the gutter today. And it's the kind of story that once you hear it, you realize there will be some success stories you never even hear about related to this facility that can turn some kids around and make education a real life dream for them. So, on behalf of my family, it's been a privilege to be attached to this entire project. Thanks.
I don't know how to follow that. You know, the list goes on endlessly. Already, since we don't have a whole lot of speakers this morning, I'm going to drone on and bug you even more. I drove up one morning and there was a young lady with long hair that was looking at the observatory and talking to Tom Patterson, and she says, "What's going on?" And he explained it to her, and so she disappeared. And a little while later, she drove up in her old Ford pickup truck that was really a beautiful pickup truck. We find out later that she'd rebuilt the engine and she'd been, redone the... Well, she comes up to the observatory with a tool belt, and we thought, oh, this is cool. And she's gone and got her dad's tool belt. It's her tool belt. She proceeds to run the 3 old ducks into the ground for a couple of days and building walls and putting up walls. We've had tremendous support from our kids. I mean, some of the kids were forced, of course, but a lot of them spent a lot of time here just because they wanted to, and they saw what was going on, and they thought it was a neat thing to help out with. I'm going to regroup my thoughts here. See, what I get to do is I get to say something and then introduce somebody else and then think about what I didn't say and then come back later. But I'm going to ask Bill Kleber of the Chamber of Commerce. Also, you know him as one of those guys that pulls and pushes on your back and stuff. But Bill is probably going to make things a little lighter this morning, I somehow think.
Thank you.
Microphone too. Thank you very much, Tom. You know, all realities start with a dream, and Tom obviously had a vision, and he organized a very special group of people in a very special community. And to me, that's a phenomenal thing to do, to see an idea like that come to fruition, to find out what the obstacles are going to be, to not deter from the ultimate goal, which is, of course, this observatory. And I kind of feel silly to quote the A-Team, but God, I love it when a plan comes together. I didn't have those kinds of opportunities when I was growing up. This isn't going to be one of those sob stories, but I didn't. I always loved heavenly bodies, but I never knew anything about astronomy. My kids and all the other kids here are going to have the fun opportunities to learn things. As a matter of fact, I swore I looked through there and I thought I saw Dr. Evil floating in Bob's Big Boy. Maybe it's just because I went to that movie last night, but that's a hell of a telescope, Tom. I would like to, on behalf of the Berthoud Area Chamber of Commerce and the businesses of the community that have supported the project, thank Tom and all of the other volunteers for all of the support and the opportunities that they give to the young people of our community. Thank you again very much. Am I supposed to introduce? Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Bob Stencil, who is the head of astrophysics. Did you ever see Dr. Evil up there? I did. Yeah. Okay. Then it wasn't me. At the Department of Colorado the Astrophysics Department at Colorado University. Bob.
Thank you, Bill. Well, I hate to correct you right off, but I'm actually a professor of astronomy at Denver University. We like to make that important distinction. However, let me begin. It's great to see you all here because this is the most significant thing to happen in Colorado astronomy in perhaps 150 years or more. Let me explain why. The history, arguably the recorded history of astronomy in this state began on a chilly November night in 1833 when the sky seemed to fall. There were approximately 10,000 meteors per hour raining out of the sky. And the folks at Bent's Fort, down in the southeast corner of this state, noted that fact, as did many of the Plains Indians. The Plains Indians figured it was the end of an era, and we know what happened. But it also signaled the beginning of astronomy in Colorado, because that same century, the 19th century, saw the building of the first of our University of Denver observatories in central Denver called Chamberlain in the 1890s. And from that point on, we haven't seen that many observatories put up in the state. Literally, you can count on one hand the number of facilities of this type in the region. So I want to give you some perspective. During the 19th century, we added one important observatory. During the 20th century, there are really only 3 or 4 to mention. And I shouldn't discount backyard observatories. There are some fine ones within the region here, but many of them are quite a bit smaller than this telescope. And even the largest fixed telescopes in the state are not bigger than twice the size of what you have here. So this is an important new observatory for the state, for the region. And I look forward to working with the students and the volunteers and helping make it all happen. Of course, quite recently, Tom Melsheimer, very skillful man he is, helped us get our Mount Evans Observatory up and running. Very pleased with his performance on that effort, and we look forward to a fraternal relation with LTO and Mount Evans both. In fact, offer a chance for dedicated students who are succeeding here to come up and work with us as situations permit. Finally, let me thank the community as well as the volunteers, because it really does take a community, as they say, to make things like this succeed. Indeed, as Tom has pointed out, the easy part is done. Now I have to make it work and keep it working, but I have great confidence you folks can do it. So again, applaud yourself for a job well done. Thank you.
Okay. I did forget to mention Heidi and Brian Short. Heidi and Brian Short, primarily Heidi are Panther Computers here in town. They have graciously spent tens of hours, and at this moment, Brian has the distinction of a privileged character. He's the only one besides me that's trained to use the telescope. But what we're going to do today, and I want to thank them very much for their efforts. If you could have seen some of the activities in the facility as we were building it, I think you would have had a lot of fun. We tried to make it a lot of fun. There was a lot of joking and kidding and going on, and of course we looked at each other and said, has anybody here done any drywall? Okay, well, let's go ahead and do it anyway. And that's what we did. Has anybody done an installation? Well, I did it once. Okay, you're it. Okay, so, it's been a lot of fun building this facility. We estimate that approximately 10,000 hours went into building the thing. Now, if you think about that, that's an average of more than 12 hours per day over the course of the project. Something I'd like you to all do, if you can today, is when you have a chance, come by and see Ray Bruck. Would you raise your hand, please? And blame him. No, thank him very much. It is his family that donated the telescope to Telescopes in Education, eventually ended up here. Now, yes, thank you. What we're going to try to do today, I want to mention, you see, Lee Youngblood just walked in. And thank you, Lee. He spent many a days here and at home building the cabinets that you see upstairs. What we're going to try to do today, since we just can't all jump in there and run around all together, is that we'd like to try to work in smaller groups. We'd like to have Chet. Would you be first to take a group into the warm room and just describe your constellation wall? And then he'll be taking that group up to the observatory, and then another one will be up to the observing floor. And then another group will form up in the warm room, and we'll try to cycle through. That way we'll all have a chance to take and see the instrument and not all end up in one place at the same time. And we're going to do the ribbon cutting here, as I'm just being reminded. Thank you. And where would you like to do that, Deb? Okay, we'll get 2 volunteers to hold the end for the photo op here. Now, one more time, let's have all the board members from the observatory raise their hands. Everybody look around and see a board member. Don't be afraid to take and walk up, ask them questions, and they certainly are able to help you out. So we'll do the ribbon cutting, and then we'll start some tours, and then there's lots of goodies over here, all donated by Catering for You, Deb Clymer, and thank you very much.
Right in the big middle of this people.
Andrea?
Hey Tom, this is
This is what we're gonna.
where's
We got Tom and Chet. Yeah.
you guys can maybe stand maybe together or something?
Okay. Well, we can. Yeah, this is gonna work. This is gonna work.
Can't see you.
How do you
Yeah, no, we can't.
Why don't you stand right beside Tom?
Can some of you?
Wait, time. Don't do it yet. We got a bunch of people who can't see anything back here.
Okay.
Who are trying to take pictures. Go to your left, Chet.
Okay.
Somebody's got to help me with the scissors here.
All right.
Right there at the top.
There you go. Okay, Crick.
So we got this backwards. That should be okay.